Running our own business isn't easy, and it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And on Scale Up Radio, we aim to help make things just that little bit easier by interviewing guests who have been where you are now, regardless of where you are on the scale up journey, and maybe facing some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked well for them, as well as what didn't, of course. And we've also combined many of these lessons into a practical scale-up handbook called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And there's details of this at the end of the episode. So welcome to Scale Up Radio.
So, hello, Joe Stallard. Welcome to Scale Up Radio. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you very much. No, it's great to be here. So my name is Joe Stallard. I'm an owner-director at House and Holiday Home Mortgages. We are a family-run mortgage brokerage, and we specialise in UK holiday property. We do your residential stuff as well, so helping people move home and buy their first home and remortgage. But the sort of niche we've tried to carve out for ourselves within the mortgage world is really around UK holiday property and helping people buy that investment place, by the sea or something that's going to be used on a short-term basis, basically.
Interesting. I like niching and niching down. It's an important aspect of any business. So yeah, I'm going to have a conversation about that, definitely. But give us a feeling, how big are you, employees, how long have you been going?
Sure. So we've been going since 2015, started as a one-man band, and we're currently a team of 8 people. We're completely remote based. So we either go out and help people in their homes or, ever since the pandemic, we've done an increasing amount of support over the phone and Teams and Zoom. But we're mainly sort of based in the Southwest at the moment. So I'm in Winchester myself. We've got people in Devizes, Swindon, Cirencester, Gloucester, Chepstow, so pretty predominantly southwestish at the moment.
And you niche down. You talked about doing that. So why did that niche come about? I'm interested. What was the purpose behind that?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's probably about 10,000 of us mortgage brokers across the country. So doing something a little bit different was always quite important to us. Getting going, we were quite lucky to inherit a book of clients that had a fairly high skew towards holiday properties within them. Now, we found when we were kind of learning about the area, it's a really small kind of part of the market. There's probably only 20, 30 lenders in the country who do holiday lets, who are, depending on who's lending at that time. And what that means, Granger, is that not only is the area kind of misunderstood or not understood at all by clients, we were finding, people were coming to us that brokers themselves hadn't really understood the speciality nature of this lending. They'd try to put it through as a buy-to-let mortgage. It would get to legal stages, and then the solicitor would go, well, that's not how you're going to be using the property. That mortgage isn't valid. So really, we found that not only does it give us quite a nice profile of clientele through, people wanting to buy a second home for, an investment purpose. They've probably got residential properties we can look after and help with as well. Actually, there's a big need for this kind of information and service that specializes. And, I always use kind of the self-build example. There are mortgage brokers out there who specialize in self-build mortgages. If somebody came to me looking for help with it, could we get there? Yes, we probably could. Would my firm be as quick and efficient as a firm who specialize in that self-build market? Hands up. No, we probably wouldn't be. So yeah, I think we're probably one of 3 brokerages in the country who really position themselves as experts in the area. And that has opened up, a number of doors for us along the way. So it's been a good choice so far.
And there may be my naivety, but what would then be the difference then between a holiday home, if I was buying for that, versus then a letting? You talked about it's not buy to let type mortgages. What would be the difference then?
Sure, yeah. So to get into a bit of a terminology, so you can think of a holiday home as effectively a second home. So, probably done on your own income. You've got a surplus of income. You can afford to buy a second home to run, and a lender's going to look at, the money coming into your bank account every month and make sure that you can afford to pay that mortgage and run two homes. The holiday let is slightly different. This is more for, rather than your own usage like you might have with a holiday home, this is predominantly to be used as an investment and rented out to people, and financed that way predominantly. You can still use it a little bit yourself, but they're kind of the flip reverse of one another, really. And it's about that short-term letting, crucially, holiday makers, short city breaks. Whereas then when we step into the buy-to-let world, it's longer term tenancies. It's people in that property for 6 or 12 months plus at a time, really.
Right. Yes. Okay. So it's that key thing. I want a second home. I want to go and visit it whenever I want with nobody else there to have to oif out the way.
Exactly that. And, people don't know the terminology, and why should they? So when they call us, it's always about teasing out how they're trying to use the property and what they want from this property, whether it is, somewhere for them and their family and they have no interest in letting it, or, it's actually predominantly an investment and they might use it for their 1 week, 2 week summer holiday a year, but that's about the extent of it. And it's about teasing that out from clients and helping them really understand what their end goal is, and then, helping them find the right finance to get there.
So you specialize in the second home, the holiday home market. What do you strive to be good at? What makes you stand out in the marketplace then?
Sure. Well, outside of that speciality, everything we have done in building this business has been around delivering a great service. We've grown very much on referral and word of mouth. And that only happens if you really impress people. We're a very regulated industry, of course we are. So there's certain aspects of the process we can't make that much easier. Lenders are going to want documentation from you. They're going to want bank statements and pay slips and income docs. We can't get rid of that side of it, but we can certainly try and make the process as quick, as easy, as pain-free as possible. Things like avoiding jargon and really just trying to help put into context and put into terms that people understand exactly what, the financing means for them and what it looks like. So that, I would say, is everything we try and do. As part of, working with one of our team, you get access to an advisor, but also a client manager. We're very conscious that through helping people, if an advisor's on the phone, that means somebody else can't phone them and can't get hold of them. So we always have at least two points of contact for all of our clients to try and make sure that they can get a timely response from us and know what's happening with their mortgage application, because these are big, personal, heavily emotionally invested purchases and periods of life for people. So we try and take as much of the stress and hassle out of that process as we possibly can.
Yeah. Wow. So 2 points of contact, trying to take the stress out, the jargon, the approach to people. I can see why people would refer you and keep coming back. So who is your ideal customer then? How do you go about finding them?
Yeah, well, the broad answer you're not looking for is kind of everyone is our target customer.
Absolutely.
We're not just about holiday homes. We do help with, all residential mortgages as well. Yeah. But on the holiday let home specific side of things, they are probably slightly more affluent, probably a little bit later in life to have built up that level of income and probably that level of deposit required as well, because these sorts of properties generally require a 20 to 25% level deposit, which is a bit higher than your residential side of things. So yeah, we find a lot of youngish families with people looking to buy for an investment purchase with an eye on the future, but also they want to get that use and enjoyment out of the property themselves.
Yeah. And interest rates have been going up and then down and all sorts of to and fro. What's the market been like for you?
It's been a really, really funny few years. So, we look back to the start of COVID and, with our holiday let skew, we were very much right place, right time. When we came out of lockdown and the property market kind of boomed as such, a lot of people were looking for these types of properties to get out of London for a bit more space. Then the stamp duty holiday came along and suddenly actually, right, we can invest some money and we haven't got to pay X amount in stamp duty now. So we had a real kind of bumper couple of years through that. And, I make no appeal to be particularly clever for doing so. We'd set the business up in that skew, but nobody saw that coming and we were right place, right time for that. Since then, there's been numerous factors that have affected the mortgage market as a whole. And the last, 12 months or so has been definitely more challenging. I think more challenging, psychologically as well as anything. The conversations we're having from people, we're still doing exactly the same job. We're finding them the best product and rate for their particular needs. But whereas that's always been quite a nice conversation, at the moment, people rolling off 1% rates and going on to 5 or 6% rates through, no fault of their own. Even though you're still finding them the best solution, it's not quite as pleasant a conversation to have. So it's been testing in that regard. But I think there's also the flip side of it is people have never needed our help and advice more. And actually the getting the best product for people really can make a huge difference financially to them every month with the rates that have increased as they have.
Yeah, I suppose that classic one, with around business leadership, around the captain. Anybody can sail in a calm sea, but only the really good captains can sail in the rough seas. It's very similar, isn't it? When anybody in good times can find a mortgage, but actually when the rates are up and it's difficult, that's when people need specialized help and real detailed help. So they turn to you for that. Okay. Yeah. Really, really see that. So let's talk about the business. You started back in 2015, owner director. So what was the decision? What got you going, making that choice?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can't actually claim to have been there for 2015, Granger. So it's my dad. He set up the business in 2015. He has an extensive history in financial services. For people old enough listening, used to run Cheltenham and Gloucester branches back in the day before they were bought out by Lloyds, and then has had a couple of different hats since then. And then he really has always preferred the mortgage side of things to any wider wealth and investment side of things. So he decided to set up on his own in 2015 and always said to me, if you want to get involved, let me know. And I always said, no, mortgages are really boring. Why would I want to do that? And yet here we are. So, what was happening at the same time as I was leaving kind of corporate marketing roles in London. I grew up in Gloucestershire, loved my cricket, loved my golf. And so, I very much enjoyed my time in London, but definitely missed the open green spaces, shall we say. And so I decided to move back to Gloucestershire and sort of set up my own small marketing agency, looking to help small and medium-sized enterprises with the stuff I was learning through my corporate career. And one of the people I was helping was Dad, and saying, look, let's grow this. And it got to the point whereby he couldn't grow it anymore as a one-man band. So he said, look, if you want to keep doing this, I enjoy working with you, go away, get your qualifications and come back and we'll do it together. And I thought, you know what, I like that. And I did that. And then slowly over time, saw the potential of what we could build here, and, enjoyed working with Dad, and shut the marketing thing down. And we've then sort of grown from there, really. So we took on our first kind of client administrator as our first hire, and then a couple more brokers, and then another administrator. So yeah, here we are. That was 2017 I joined, and here we are kind of 6 years later. 8 people strong, really.
Yeah, that's a really clever growth, and I guess though a lot of that's your marketing background. Yeah, that must bring quite a substantial opportunity for growth within the business. So what sort of marketing have you been doing? Do you think that's allowed that growth to take place?
Well, you'd think so, but it's actually been a bit of a challenge. So the biggest challenge, kind of, I think, in my role is still advising clients whilst also trying to work on the business as well. That kind of age-old in versus on dilemma. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff we've done, but the primary reason we have grown Grander is through great service and referral. So there's not a huge deal of marketing that goes into that, but it is kind of our focus for next year to look to, right, how do we go again now, and how do we bring in those consistent sources of leads that will allow us to grow and bring on more advisors and help more people, really.
Yeah. And you've had some really good success, 2017 since you've joined, eight staff, as those are all the good things. What sort of things may have gone wrong? What would you say to our audience as they watch out for these hiccups on your journey?
Yeah, I think the organic growth has been great. I think the flip side of it is that we've never put a great deal of structure and goal setting and thought into how we want to develop the business. And that has meant at times that we've been kind of chasing our tails a little bit, looking to put in processes that work across the board for all of our advisors. We have a consistent way of working, so all of our clients get the same level of service, and crucially our admin staff, they can help no matter which advisor they're working with. They know what to expect, where they stand, and what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. So that's certainly been a challenge. We also have been lucky in the fact that the people, by and large, that we've brought into the business, we've known through other roles, be it previous working roles or relationships that we've developed, and that's worked really well for us. We have had a couple of people who we've kind of more typically recruited come in and find they're not quite the right fit and move on fairly swiftly. So there have been some good lessons learned there, really, around our recruitment moving forward and how we make sure we're getting the right people that meet our kind of ethos and our beliefs and how we want to help people and can do that on a wider scale.
Staff finding and recruitment is a really important aspect in any business. Absolutely. So you've done some learning on that. What's worked then and what didn't work? What have you changed?
I think we have changed the model slightly in the fact that, we were keen to build our advisor team quite quickly and quite swiftly. And as a result, we probably didn't put the level of due diligence into making sure we got the right personality with that. We took on a very competent advisor, but perhaps wasn't the right fit for the rest of the team and the rest of the culture within the business. We are remote, but we still do try and get together on Teams and Zoom and in person when we can to make sure, we still feel that kind of, that, again, it sounds really cheesy, but that sort of family feeling, really. We love the people who work in this business, and making sure we actually look after and protect that culture a little bit more, I think is an important step moving forwards.
And do you think that was a failure because you moved too fast? And how would you go about now finding the person that fits that culture, that family culture that you talked about?
Yeah, I think we were going too fast, and I think we were probably a little bit too focused on their credentials and their ability as an advisor rather than perhaps their wider personality and their fit within the team. There's still no animosity or bad blood there at all. It was it just wasn't quite the right fit for either party. So I think being more robust in our recruiting, and looking at how we maybe bring in more members of the team during that recruitment process to get a wider view on this person, is a key step, I think.
Yes, and that's brilliant. I think that's a really important tool that small businesses maybe forget that they can do, which is, the interview process can be done by a wider of all the members in the business that allows you to understand that fit within it. I used to do that in the corporate world with my teams, and my team was part of the interviewing process. The team that I'd work in, and other team members from other teams as well, because that allowed that cross review that either made me realize that maybe this wasn't the right fit, or gave me some advice that I hadn't even spotted, because you get that from that. Great. That's really, really useful. Very, very good. So you're growing. You talked about trying to get some good structure and goal setting maybe in place. Is probably a bit lacking. How have you and your dad gone about then making key decisions as when it's needed to be done?
Well, if he were on here, he'd probably flippantly tell you he just does as he's told and gets on with it. But no, look, Dad's in his sort of mid-60s. He was, quite happily working until I joined in the business, probably towards retirement. So, he is a great sounding board and very much keeps our feet on the floor. But he'd probably tell you that I'm the one kind of driving the vision and where we're going. And I think one thing we struggle with a little bit is perhaps we don't challenge one another enough. We probably, through my upbringing, see things in a pretty similar light a lot of the time. And whilst that's great and we've got a great business working relationship, perhaps a bit more variation in our personality could lead to us challenging one another a little bit more, maybe.
Maybe, yes, yeah. Sometimes that good working relationship that you've got, father son, could you've got the grounding there to actually bring in some challenging and some thinking, which other people can't, because maybe they don't have that strength and that bond. So you've got something that you can really build there. So. Yeah,
that's it. And he's vastly experienced. He's got his clients absolutely love him. He knows everything about all of them. And whereas I look to bring a slightly different angle to it, I think remembering that people deal with people at the end of the day, and he's not got to the age he is doing what he does without knowing a thing or two. So yeah, it's good to remember, and I think it's invaluable the time we spend working together as well. It's we speak every single day, and I think would we do that if we weren't working together? I don't know if we would. So I'm very, very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, fabulous. Now, I'm interested. You use the terminology for your culture, the family feeling. Yet you also said that you're all remote, and some of the locations you talked about are quite far apart. So, how do you maintain that culture in such a wide range of locations and individuals working from home?
Yeah, so I think teams is a very big part of what we do. We have regular meetings in the diary for sometimes nothing more than a chat. Brokers get together on a Friday to bounce ideas off one another, and chat before the weekend, and we take a big kind of interest in people's personal lives outside of work. It's one of the things Dad always said, being a mortgage broker, was that before we grew the business, it was quite a lonely existence. Yes, he's kind of speaking to clients and lenders all the time, but he had no one to kind of work with and bounce ideas off and run ideas for cases and lending solutions and that sort of thing. Whereas now we very much encourage that, the chats going all day with things we've just learned from a lender, or, has anyone got ideas for who I should talk to about this case? And I think it's the combination of the right people in the business, and then also just trying to make sure that checkpoints and the technologies there to help support those relationships.
So regular meetings you call checkpoints. What do you mean by checkpoint?
Just those meetings. Yeah, just using a different word for it. But we have sort of Thursday afternoons, an hour blocked out for kind of CPD and lender meetings to come in and talk to us and develop us. Friday mornings, there's some time blocked out for the brokers to get together. Once a month, we have a whole team meeting to update people as to where the business is at. And we very much ask for input into those sessions to try and make sure that people can ask any question about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and trying to make the business better. And it's a really kind of open forum, and everyone knows it's an open forum, I think.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, that's really good. I love that. Yeah, a key set of predefined diary invites for meetings and structures around developing, around coming together, about learning, around just doing the business work. That's brilliant. So, cash is king. You're growing a business. You're taking on new people. How do you manage cash in the business? What's your tricks?
Well, this is again where Dad's probably been an absolute godsend. I would just spend everything, spend. But no, he's very sensible in terms of we try and build up and make sure we've got at least a year's cash there to mitigate against unforeseen or rainy days or tougher periods. Really, in the mortgage world, we get paid by lenders, but we get paid upon completion. So, we'll speak to a client and then 3 or 6 months later, that transaction will finally go through once the legals are done and everything like that. And that's when we get paid. So there is a definite lag between the activity you put in and seeing the money come into the business outside. So yeah, other than, all our tax money is siphoned off straight away, so that goes into a separate account and isn't touched, and then it's looking to build up the savings around that as well. With the dividends and salary he and I take are set and consistent, so if we have a bumper month, we're not suddenly drawing more out the business. It's going in there to help get reinvested or make us more stable.
Wow, very good. Yeah, and your dad saying you need a year, absolutely brilliant. I mean, we advise minimum of 6 months, so a year, brilliant, and that is so important because that allows that ups and downs of the marketplace to keep the stability, keep you moving forwards. And separate accounts for your tax. Well done. Yeah, love that. Yeah, I do the same for my business. I think that's so important. That money isn't ours. We should forget about it. Siphon it off and forget about it. So, and that constant draw in a nice steady state, and using the bonus times to fill up the coffers for the not so good times. Brilliant, really good, like that very much. So, personal question about you. You've building a business. You're a business owner. There are worries and stresses that come with all of that. How do you get overwhelmed? And if you do, how do you manage overwhelm? And
yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'm very lucky in the fact that I really enjoy what I do, because what we do is helping people, and we've got that aspect of it. We're making a huge difference to people's lives. And then I also love the challenge of growing this business. That for me is as much fun as anything. So I think really enjoying what you do massively helps. I think I've got better at, when I do go on holiday, at not responding to emails and actually having that little bit of a psychological break there. I went on my honeymoon about a month ago now, and that was absolutely no emails. So actually, learning how refreshing it is to completely switch off is, that's been a big one. But there are challenges, of course. But I wouldn't say, touch wood, so far I've felt completely overwhelmed by it. I'm quite a logical, methodical person. So I'll always kind of look at the end goal and try and work back and what steps need to be done, and then just try and get on and do it, really.
Look at the end goal and work backwards. Brilliant. Yes, very good advice there. And it is about logic and being methodical, and it's those small repetitive things that you do that add up to huge benefit. So, just keep doing them and make them successful. So what do you love the most about your industry, and what do you not like about your industry?
Well, there's a lot to not like, I'll tell you that, Granger. I think the thing that we have to love most is that, buying a home is generally the biggest thing in someone's life. It's probably the most money they're ever going to spend, and they get hugely emotionally invested in those transactions. So when you can really help someone, when you can find a solution that they've been to a couple of other brokers and they haven't found it, and you've managed to find a way of doing it and getting something over the line for them, that's the best feeling. People take it so personally. So to do that is brilliant. In terms of what I don't like so much, I think the property buying industry as a whole is quite a slow process. We can have a mortgage offer almost instantaneously now in the right circumstances, and yet the legal work still requires back and forth over email and convoluted phone calls and things taking months and months and months. I think that as a brokerage, we very much believe that the human element is important in what we do, and that technology should underpin that and make life better for everyone. And I think there's certain parts of the property journey, particularly around the legal process, that really need some technological innovation to make this process easier and quicker for everyone, because hours and hours of work can go into things and people's hearts go on the line, and then things can fall over at the last minute because a couple of solicitors aren't able to speak to one another or something like that. It still seems bonkers to me.
Yes, having moved house a few times in my life, I know exactly what you mean.
Well, that's it. Most people do it and they say, never again, or not for another 10 years. Whereas, it needn't be like that nowadays. And I don't mean to slag off all solicitors out there. There are some very good conveyancers who add a lot of value and really do help their clients. But I do believe that the legal part of the property journey as such, it's just crying out for some innovation there, I think.
And if I give you a magic wand, what would you change about that process?
So I think there's elements around. You still need to make sure that people get advice and legal experts in their corner. But, I don't really understand why it still takes weeks or months for searches on a property to come back. I don't know why that can't be done instantaneously, and why we can't take that time scale out of the property buying journey for sure.
Yeah. No, it's I can appreciate that in certain industries I've worked in. If we have a coffee sometime, we can debate that, definitely. So, talking about a cup of coffee, we're going to meet in 5 years' time and have a cup of coffee and talk about where you've gone. So, looking back, we're sitting there in 5 years' time, looking back over the last 5 years. What's happened both professionally and personally for you to those 5 years to be successful?
Sure, yeah. So I'll sort of start professionally. So we've got a kind of wider stretch goal for the business to have a broker in every county in the country able to help people. So we discussed, we cover some of the Southwest at the moment. But, a broker in every county in the UK to help people would be a really nice, material goal for us to achieve. I think it would mean that we're doing a lot of scale, providing a lot of good advice, but then also we've got somebody locally for everyone, for those people who do still want or need face-to-face advice, which is important, especially in areas such as equity release, which a couple of our advisors do offer. The ability to go out to an older or a more vulnerable person's home and make sure that they fully understand everything. That I think there's a lot to that. So that would be us professionally. I think the remote aspect is is great, but I think I foresee that coming with probably a sort of a hub somewhere in the country, where probably our administration staff are based out of, to make sure that we can continue to provide a consistent service across the board. So I think those two things would be a really nice couple of goals to achieve within those 5 years. Personally, I mentioned I've just got married, so it's kind of bigger house, and probably fill in those extra bedrooms along the way will probably be on the horizon, I hope, if we're fortunate enough to.
Oh, fabulous. Well, I wish you lots of luck on that front. Having 4 grown-up children myself, I know what filling bedrooms means in your life. So, yeah, fantastic journey. So, well, brilliant. I mean, Joe, what a fantastic conversation. You know, this whole steady growth that you've achieved. You know, your dad setting up the business first, you know, encouraging you to come along and join in. You wanted to go it your own way first, and then finally, coming on board. The passion I can see in you and how you want to grow, where you want to achieve over the next 5 years. And you have, it's interesting. You talked about not getting overwhelmed, because actually, if you have a joy of work and you have the joy and that excitement of what you're trying to build and what you're trying to create, you don't get that same level of stress and overwhelm. And I do appreciate that and understand that. But how you've gone about growing steadily, your passion about it grows through referrals, and referrals come from doing an amazing job, and the focus and attention that you do to make those work, that your clients then come back, they refer clients to you, and that's how you steady growth. And that's awesome and really, really important in any business to think about organic growth. And I love the description you talked about, through the growth you've done, you want to keep that family feeling, that culture you describe as a family feeling. I think that's a lovely way to describe culture within your business and how you're doing that. And that comes from that amazing relationship that father and son, you and your dad, have, that's helped grow and create the business by giving advice to each other, keeping you on the focus on this, keeping that growth you talked about. He said, you must have, that whole year's worth of money in the bank to keep those, peaks and troughs sorted out, and that steady process that you do of putting money aside. That's a real fantastic bond and relationship that's helped to build that business, and how you've done that together is fantastic. So there have been some really interesting takeaways and some thoughts all the way through here, and I loved our conversation. But we always finish off, if I may, we have this few short, sharp questions, but we'll see how we get on with those. So, if I may, if you would go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Probably set more goals, I think. Stumbled across it in the business recently, but set goals, set them high, and if you don't quite reach them, you'll still be doing well.
Brilliant, fantastic advice. Yes. Books. Any books you recommend to our audience?
So most of my reading is non-fiction stuff. So I think in that regard, Shoe Dog, the autobiography of Phil Knight, who created Nike, I think is a fantastic read, and some of the risks and slight variations, if they had gone just a different way, how different Nike could have been today, is a great one. Then there's, more business focused things like The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, the E-Myth. Those are a couple of things that jump to mind.
Yes, great books. Yes, not read The Shoe Dog myself, but it's now on my list. Thank you. Podcasts. Do you listen to any podcasts? Any you recommend?
Yes. So the Tim Ferriss show. I mentioned Tim Ferriss there. I'm obviously a little bit of a fanboy. It turns out you don't realise these things until you say it out loud. But that's probably my most listened to. And then there's a few around kind of sports, and I'm a Swindon Town fan for my sins, so I keep up with most of my Swindon news via podcast as well.
Brilliant. Well, as I often say, someone has to do, don't they? So
exactly.
Onto your mobile phone, any apps that make a difference for you?
No, I'm not great with my phone. I probably my wife would tell you I spend too much time on it, but I have no idea what I'm looking at. So no real standout productivity hack apps or anything like that. I just WhatsApp, email, and maybe a game or two to null my mind.
So my favourite question of all: who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Oh wow, I've had a couple of. I think all my bosses throughout my corporate career in one way, shape, or form. Sometimes things I like and have taken, and sometimes ways I really don't want to do it. But I'll have to give probably Dad the most credit. He's a massive people person, and I think really caring in your team, in your people. I think goes a long way to helping with that loyalty and helping work on the business together.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with your dad's sentiments there. Absolutely. And finally, Joe, how can people get hold of you?
Sure. So the business, House and Holiday Home Mortgages, it's a bit of a mouthful, so we refer to it as Triple H or HHH Mortgages. So the website's hhhmortgages.com. You can find it via HHH Mortgages across most socials as well. And then I'm on LinkedIn personally. So if you look for Joe Stallard, you should find me.
Awesome. Joe, thank you for this amazing conversation today.
Thanks, Granger. Enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.